Nikola Jokic just informed the Denver Nuggets that he will not be accepting a contract extension at this time. Should the Denver Nuggets be worried? We'll talk a little bit about that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into the content for today, y'all. And it's funny enough, earlier today, I dropped an episode on NBA players that could end up in a change of scenery by this time next year from where they are. And one of the players that I mentioned in that was Nikola Jokic, but I even said on there, long shot, very small chance of it happening, and just laid out a scenario in which it could happen, but that scenario all being a little bit unlikely, right? And then we get the news that happened today, is that Nikola Jokic has informed the Denver Nuggets that he will not be considering a contract extension during this offseason, and that he prefers to conduct those talks starting next year. And so it's not too much of a surprise, right? I want to lay out the more straightforward reason why this makes sense is simply that he makes more money that way. By waiting an additional year before accepting the contract extension, he can get more money. That's the most baseline, most reasonable, and most realistic reason on why that plays a part into this, right? He has $177 million left on the Supermax contract that does run for 3 more seasons. He has a player option in the 2027-28 season. So it's not like something is pressing right now to where Nikola Jokic is going to be a free agent over the next season if he doesn't have a contract extension talk with the Denver Nuggets or something like that. So that's the first thing. Let's just say that it's not going to be there, right? He could earn an additional $80 million by just waiting till next year to have that. So again, the most simple explanation is probably the most realistic one. It just gives him more money. You have a chance to make just an additional $8 million by waiting basically another year to have that kind, not even a full year, right? You're talking about him waiting basically 8 months to have this contract extension talk. And then at that point, he just gets him. And that's what it seems like that him and his camp are electing for, is just what's going to get them most money. Of course, in the NBA, your career is only as it can leave in a flash, right? So getting the most money back is probably the simplest answer there. I want to be clear there. In no way am I saying that anything else is more likely than that. The most likely scenario, Jokic is just going to get more money, and that's what it comes down to, right? This is not really indication at all that Jokic is dissatisfied with the team, that he's at the place of wanting, or like with Giannis, of watching what the team's going to do and maybe thinking and contemplating about asking for a trade at some point in time. It's nothing to be said that there's nothing to be said there. And so when it comes down to it, is that while Jokic is aging as a player, there's still a guy who averaged a triple-double last year, that he had one of the best seasons ever to not result in an MVP. It's all there, right? So that's, again, the most likely answer is probably the actual one, right? He is eligible to sign a 4-year contract worth almost $300 million. And so it makes a sense that he would hold off and sign that contract extension. When you look at Jokic, his game's not based on athleticism. So even as he does age, he has a really good chance to continue to be and dominate at the level that he is for quite a while. And even with the age that Jokic is reaching, you're probably looking at, you see teams or players now playing well into their mid-30s. And so because of that, Jokic has it's been no major injury things like that, right? So he's probably going to be able to keep playing at the level that he's playing at for the foreseeable future. There's nothing wrong with that. He just turned 30 in February. He'll turn 31 in the middle of this season. So Jokic, betting on himself, again, the most likely scenario is probably the likely one. But with that said, with the change of coach and Mike Malone, who reportedly Nikola Jokic was at the point of, he kind of understood, a new front office that came in. You've made some moves this offseason to really help solidify your bench and your depth, which the Nuggets desperately needed was better depth last year. I think they could use still another additional scorer, but bringing Bruce Brown back, right? Trading for Jonas Valanciunas, who reportedly they're going to hold up in their contract. You got a guy in Deron Holmes as well, who was a promising player before he ruptured his Achilles, and we don't know how long it's going to take him to get back or start catching his path, and this kind of set him back for a year. But that's another promising player. On top of that, you trade Michael Porter Jr. and you got in Cam Johnson, a player that's a little bit older, a couple years older than Michael Porter Jr., but is still a player that puts up the numbers, can fit in right where you're trying to use. Michael Porter Jr. has been more consistent in those areas. So the Nuggets are a team that have made some really good changes this offseason. But I do want to mention this. And again, I like to talk about everything from all scenarios. I think I've done a pretty good job at laying out the most realistic scenario in this is Jokic just wants to make sure he can get the most money possible. He'll sign a contract extension around this time next year. No harm, no foul. Get his $300 million contract. But as we know, in the NBA, things can change drastically. And if for some reason this Denver Nuggets team has another disappointing season, and let's say that even a 50-win team last year, let's say they don't win 50 games this year and take a step back, or somehow they get passed up by a team in the Western Conference, don't think that that's likely, but is there a chance that the Nuggets and Jokic may end up having to part ways? There's always some chance of that. There's always some small chance. But I think when you have a player, again, of Jokic's caliber, whose game is not based off athleticism, he doesn't seem like he's going to fall off a cliff. Like he's not going to be one of those players that's effective and boom, one season you're looking like, damn, he got old in a year. Jokic doesn't really shape up to be that player because of the way and style of basketball that he does play. But of course, this was something that, aggregators and things like that are going to take and run with it and try to make something that it's not. And I think there's always that small chance. Like I said, there's always that small chance. I know some people are going to read that and be like, so you're telling me there's a chance? And yeah, I guess in a way, but overall, like, let's just be clear here. If Jokic were to leave the Denver Nuggets, it would only come via him waking up and telling the Denver Nuggets organization, the organization that he has an affinity for, the organization that he does have a lot of control in and say in what happens there, because, again, he's earned that. And to wake up and say, hey, yeah, I want to get up out of here, just doesn't seem like it feels like Jokic. So again, they made a 3-year, $212 million contract extension, but he has the opportunity to sign a 4-year, almost $300 million contract extension. And that's just really all it is when it comes down to it. That's all it is. I don't think this is a Giannis situation. I don't even think this is a situation with LeBron and the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think it's any of that. I think this is just a straightforward scenario in which Jokic is going to make sure that he can maximize on getting money, securing his future, him, his kids, his family, all that future. And that's the most important thing when it comes down to it. So I don't think it's anything crazy. And I don't think we're going to see Nikola Jokic ask for a trade anytime soon. But then again, like I said, you just never know what's going to happen with the fluidity around the NBA. You can never say never with any scenario. You can just talk about the probabilities and the possibilities of what could happen. But this is most likely a scenario where Jokic is just going to get his money. We're going to keep it moving forward, and that's going to be what it's going to be. But you guys can let me know how you feel on all of that down below. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. I'll see you guys next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.